And now, on with the show.
Hello, podcast listener. This is me, Phoenix Zarola. And if you're up for it, I'd like to offer you a new episode of Film Fracas. With me, as always, I'm not alone here.
Can I ask to restart this?
This is Phoenix's ASMR podcast.
This is kind of disturbing.
Are we still recording?
Yeah.
No, we're still recording.
Okay, we're still recording.
All right. Joining me in this table of fun is Houston's finest, Robbie DeShazer.
What's up, guys?
The wild one from Wiley, Texas, Carter Spilliards.
Howdy.
And the best person named Brett Johnson in Flower Mound, Texas, contest winner, Brett Johnson.
Happy to be here.
And this is our Film Fracas. Welcome, everyone.
This is
Y'all excited to be here?
episode 5 of Film
Episode
Fracas.
5. The
Yeah.
Fracas strikes back.
Once again, go back and... Ooh. I didn't catch that for a second. But yeah, if you haven't listened to episodes 1 through 4, what are you doing here? Go back and listen to those.
Yeah.
They're all good. We're really proud of them. And this episode's not going to make much sense if you haven't listened to it.
I recommend listening to them in order, so that way you understand everything that goes on.
Thank you, Phoenix.
Yes.
Okay, so we're back here. The pool of movies is down to 7 now.
7 films.
Last
we started
week-
with... How many films did we start with?
We started with 12, we're down to 7. Last week, Lilo and Stitch got voted off the island, much to my chagrin. So the movies we got left now are The Princess Bride, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, not the first one, RoboCop, Silence of the Lambs, Moonlight, Iron Man, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
All right.
So,
Still such a good list, a good field of films.
they're all good movies.
All great, yeah. And I feel like this is when it's going to start getting even more difficult than it's already been.
Things are going
Oh,
to start
goodness.
hurting a
It's
little
going to be like
bit.
pulling teeth from here on out.
Pulling teeth.
I mean, it's kind of already been like that a couple of times.
Yeah. We've had some... This is a podcast of hot takes and spoilers. I mean...
Oh, yeah. Spoilers galore.
Yeah.
Which we never do a spoiler warning, but I think it's kind of assumed.
Yeah, I feel like it goes without saying.
I should probably put that in show
Get
notes
over
on
it.
every episode or
Probably,
something. I may go back and do that. Who knows?
It's like RoboCop. This movie's been out for over 30 years.
Right?
If you haven't seen it by now, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I guess Moonlight and La La Land are the newest films.
Yeah.
Right, but also, if you're listening about people talking about these movies and you don't want spoilers, I feel like that's on
Kind of
you,
assumed.
Yeah.
because we're going to talk about the movies.
We are going to talk about these movies.
Okay.
And today we have a brand new challenge, one that I am choosing right
it gonna
as
be?
we
Pull that challenge
speak.
out of the hat.
And it's production design.
Production design, baby.
This week we are talking about production design.
Oh,
waiting.
goodness. Okay.
Prod Des.
So much fun. Carter, go ahead and define what we're looking for in production design.
So production design would be as... we're making it more all-encompassing to include, like, makeup, costumes, any kind of, like, art design, production design, sets, overall, look of the film.
Yeah. A lot of aesthetics.
Aesthetics, yes.
In this audio-only podcast, we're going to talk about a lot of the way
a lot
things
of pictures. So we'll try and do the best we can.
look. We're trying our hardest, always.
To clarify, we're not talking about cinematography.
No.
Are we talking about color?
Yes. I would say...
Probably?
I would say color choice is important.
Like color palette,
Like palette,
kind
yeah.
of stuff.
We don't have to get in the nitty gritty.
Because costume design and like art direction, the color palette is very important for that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's
So more art direction.
art direction, yes.
art direction, costume,
And then
hair and makeup.
General production design as well.
Essentially everything except cinematography, I guess.
Yeah.
Not cinematography. And again, it's one of those things where like it's how well does it fit the movie? Because like a set in RoboCop is obviously very different.
From a set in Moonlight or
Yeah.
Silence of the
Yes.
Lambs.
So
This is-
Well, Thinking about it.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
but each of them fit the movie itself.
Right.
And a lot of them are going to have very distinct looks to them.
Especially something like Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones is going to have a distinct
Princess
look to
Bride.
it.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, very
Roger
storybook.
Rabbit.
Yes.
I'm excited to talk about Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That's what I'm so excited about.
I know Robbie said this after the podcast. I think it was last time, but like the more cause I like Roger Rabbit, but like the more we're talking about, I'm just kind of like, damn, like
Roger Rabbit's
good
so
movie.
good.
Why don't I own that? Like
It's on Netflix.
I know,
if you haven't
but
seen Who Framed
still,
Roger
like-
Rabbit, go watch it on Netflix.
Why are you
right?
5 episodes into this
Why are you
podcast?
I mean, like
We've kind of ruined everything with that.
It's
Especially
still
after
so much. I think
episode
it's still
3.
so much fun to
But, yeah.
watch.
It is, no, yes.
for me now, this podcast is basically just kind of like, how far is Roger Rabbit going to make it?
I
'Cause I'm
know.
like, God, like, I love that movie now.
It's solid.
Yeah, it's great. We'll see how
All
far
right.
it ends up going for real.
Well,
Okay,
let's get into the fracas.
All right, Robbie, how about you start us off?
I will start us off this
Okay.
week. I'm feeling real confident this time, guys. I've got still in the running. I have Iron Man and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, we just kind of gushed over Who Framed Roger Rabbit for a bit,
I just really wanted to talk about it.
it's so good, isn't it, Brett?
It is. It's
Okay,
Yeah. Okay, we're a little too conversational.
let's
this
move
time.
on.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit has such a great look and feel to it. It does a great job of combining noir aesthetics with both the individual looks of the Looney Tunes as well as the Disney cartoons. There's a lot going on, and it mixes. Is it 30? I'm trying to remember the time frame it's supposed to be taking place in because I'm blanking right now. Is it 20s, 30s? It's
I think
early 20th century.
yeah, it's kind of a.
The first half
I don't
of
know that it's defined. Is it?
I don't think
it-
it's really
that's what I'm-
defined.
Yeah, I don't know if it does.
definitely.
Regardless, that's what
Yeah.
they're going for.
Yeah.
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 Something like that mixed with, everything from watching the opening sequence in that film is, you see this Roger Rabbit cartoon where he ends up with, a refrigerator dropped on his head, and, you have the discussion of, no, he needs to be seeing stars, not birds around his head. And you realize, it's kind of a movie set and it backs out and you see just the perfect blending of the animated world and the live action. And that's where I think this film really excels, is the fact that it, so perfectly combines live action and animation aesthetics. Like it just, we're going to use that word so much and I feel so pretentious saying it, but.
Well, and even if you break down the character design of Roger Rabbit, I've seen like interviews with the creators and stuff on it, and they talk about how meticulously they planned out to make sure that he had both aspects of Warner Brothers, like Looney Tunes characters, and like Mickey Mouse.
Right,
and
he's
Disney
got the
characters.
glove.
He's got the gloves, and
He's got like the red short.
yeah, the pants.
Yeah, the pants with the
were-
suspenders.
yeah, with this were Disney, and then but his head was very like Looney Tunes shaped. So they really tried to mix for him so it wasn't one way or the other.
Well, the thing I love about this is this exists kind of in a world where there aren't two animation studios or whatever. This exists in a world where there's just these toon actors and they all coexist with each other.
And like the toon actors work for those companies
Yeah.
because
Right.
Because
It fits into like a studio system kind of thing.
yeah,
like that.
because quick interjection. I think like the movie at least takes place in the 40s.
Yeah.
because you see Dumbo outside the window, and the head of whatever studio Roger Rabbit works for, he's like, "Oh, it's Dumbo. We got him on loan from Disney." And so it's kind of like, oh, like it's so
Right.
cool. It's like, oh yeah,
Also,
Dumbo
so many
is an
studio
actual
system
working
in jokes
actor.
there. Just so many things like that.
Yeah.
I love it. Not to mention just how when this film wants to go kind of dark and more noir style, it does it.
does it.
It undercuts it. We've talked about like the patty cake moment before, but like that's still taking place in like a dark alley, like watching
Yeah.
like through a window
Like-
with shadows, and it's
And I don't know if do we want to talk about lighting, or would that be more with cinematography?
Well, I think
feel
we'll
like-
save that a little bit for
I feel like that'd be
cinematography.
more
But if you want to
cinematography.
throw a little interjection, in
I'm
there.
just saying, like the lighting in Roger Rabbit, and I'm sure if it gets there, we'll touch on it then. But the lighting is so incredible to have the animation, and like it's still to this day one of the most impressive.
Talking about bumping the lamp.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is like a term we created from this movie
Yeah.
and kind of like embodying like really good art direction, really detailed.
yeah,
right.
Really detailed work to like crafting of design and art and stuff, which is like just a testament to how like how creative and how much effort and how like really well executed this movie is in terms of its production design and art.
And that's what I was going to say about this is like the challenge of working animated characters and live action actors together really it created a challenge for the team behind this, and so the production design had to be done so meticulously, had to be like everything had to be to a T, had to be perfect, like, and they worked with those challenges, and I think that's why this movie works so well. Is it just while it reflects, you know, kind of our own world in a way, but it's so much its own place. It's it's this place that, you know, it almost exists out of time because it's just this noir studio system world where toons and humans coexist, and I don't know, it's so much fun. It's such a fun world to be a part of for an hour and a half, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, we keep talking about how great the movie is, and I would argue that its strongest point is its art direction.
Yeah, its art direction is so
It's
good.
just stellar, and it's like such a fun watch for that reason.
Yeah, and the art, you know, like I can't keep gushing over, you know, how cool it is to have a production that can have Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny seamlessly exist in the same place at the same time. Let's move on to Iron Man.
Yeah.
Iron Man is a lot of fun, and I think it really does set forward like the look and feel for the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward, which is why I think it is so solid. So without having to really go back and give any explanation, Iron Man sets itself up in this kind of alternate version of the present day where technology's advanced a lot faster. You have all this cool technology and stuff that Tony's working with, and it's just kind of attributed to, I guess, Stark Industries just being badass, I guess. But that whole look and feel, you know, I think of Tony standing in his garage with, you know, the projection of the windows in front of him, and he's moving them around and building the suit.
Yeah, all the holograms.
The hologram computer stuff. You just get such a good look and like feel for what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be, and it sets a standard for the rest of those movies, and I think it's such a solid one.
Can I just real quick? Are we gonna consider visual effects part of production design as well? Because like the holograms and all that, like they are awesome, but those are visual effects.
I mean, they're visual effects, but they're
part of the production.
Part of the set.
They're a part of the design for.
So for all intents and purposes, because we don't really have that many like special effects heavy movies, but for the few of them that we do have, we're gonna
because something like a big VFX like fight scene, we wouldn't really consider. But because that's just like that would be
that scene could have been Tony sitting at a laptop.
And
instead
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and it does such a great job of balancing the feel of a comic book while still seeming grounded in reality. And, you know, you just get these great moments. You know, you get several different Iron Man suits throughout. I mean, maybe not as many as we get in later movies. We get to the third.
There's the silver.
He's got the big rusty one.
The one he flew out with.
The one that isn't painted, then the one that is painted.
Yes. So he gets 3. And then by Iron Man 2, I think he's on Mark 4 or something like that, right?
Something like that.
But you have so many cool things, and I think Marvel really went all out. I think they knew what they wanted to get accomplished with this shared universe, and they just started dropping little hints, and it was kind of the beginning of this Easter egg culture in movies. You know, the Coulson holding up the kind of prototype Captain America shield.
That's Iron Man 2.
That's Iron Man 2. You're right.
The proto shield is in the background.
It is in the background. Coulson doesn't hold it up though.
But Coulson picks it up in Iron Man 2. Coulson is, however, in it.
Coulson is in it.
Which one he's like, from the strategic homeland.
Something.
Yeah.
Shield. But they're always like, you really need to find a easier way to say that. But obviously in the post-credit scene. Yeah.
And it carries over so many of the great things from Marvel movies in the past, like Stan Lee cameos. You get kind of, and that's the first, you know, one of those big ones where it's going to have this, you know, continuing in-joke rather than Stan Lee's an extra or something. Like it's, I don't know. I think it's kind of the first one where you're like, oh yeah, Stan Lee, he gets a moment where it just shines, you know, he's center screen and you're like, I guess you get some of that in like the Spider-Man movies, but
that's
That's not
I love it, but that's not.
Yeah, it's not quite
That's not
production.
very much. That's not really production design.
No, it's really not. I was just throwing that in there as a.
Okay.
What I like about Iron Man is when you compare it to the other superheroes at the time, because at the time it was really everyone was going crazy about Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the thing, and I love those movies, and they themselves also have their own unique and beautiful production design, but they're so dark.
Yes.
Like literally. Everything is like the palette is all blacks and grays, and it was Batman.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
the
say
point.
That's the point. But like the other
that's
movies
mood.
at the time, like tried to like even if they weren't a superhero movie, tried to adopt these darker palettes.
Dark and edgy.
Dark and edgy,
Gritty.
yes.
And,
Gritty remake.
And
I will
DC
say
still
this-
has that.
And they
it's
still
not
try and do
good.
that with DC. But Marvel definitely embraced the let's do realistic, but also like light and colorful.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because like you saying that is it just like my like personal philosophy, quote unquote, about like comic book superhero movies. It's because like Disney Marvel was kind of like, yeah, we're gonna make a lighter like comic book movie, whereas like The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, those are just adaptations of superhero stories.
Right,
Those are super like they're two like yes, they're both comic book movies, but they're very like different branches on that tree, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I will say that this is maybe palette-wise one of the darker of the MCU films. As they go further, they start to lighten up a little bit. You have your odd ones out there, Iron Man 3, Thor's a little like
Is it darker color palette?
yeah.
Thor: The Dark World actually.
I was gonna say
Very dark color.
Thor's
palette.
pretty gray.
Thor's pretty gray, but like
Ragnarok is not.
yeah, but then later you get into your Guardians of the Galaxies, your Thor Ragnarok, even your Black Panther, where you've got and
color
this is still one of the darker ones of those, and I think it's still trying to do something familiar for the time, but not,
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I think it is so great. There's so much design to, look at. There's so many things going on your screen, and like I said, like there's something to be said for the beginning of that Easter egg culture, and putting in just little bits of the Marvel universe in each frame. It's really good. I think it's a really good precedent they set there.
Yeah. Okay, so you're talking a lot about like Easter egg culture, and like we have talked about like the color palette and the lighting kind of stuff, but I feel like you're not really touching on
The set design?
like the set actual production design, the costumes.
Yeah.
And then we've talked about the couple of suits, but I don't exactly see how Easter egg culture fits into.
Oh, I just think that the fact that like the production designers and the team behind Iron Man took the time to just like put little things in the background for people to pick up on. It's little things like that like weren't as heavily emphasized in earlier comic book movies, even if there were like one or two.
Okay, I guess I'm just kind of like, why is he focusing on this minuscule thing when he could be talking about
A lot.
Oh, I want to talk about
about the movie as a whole?
Yeah, there's so much. There's the entire design of Tony's like mansion,
Workshop and
his
mansion.
workshop. The all the cars are very meticulously picked out to be to set up the character of Tony Stark. Like
The robot arm helpers.
yes, and it sets up such a basis that like later it adds on to it, and the design grows throughout the. Or you're grabbing each other.
I'm mimicking the robot arm, making out
mimicking
somebody's heart.
Yeah, that's the robot arm is cool, honestly.
And like even if you look at costumes, like Tony, they have all the T-shirts and are each very carefully picked and like
Every T-shirt in that movie is made to emphasize the fact that he's got a light bulb in his chest.
Yeah.
It's all dark
And that
colors.
alone already is like I don't know, such an iconic part of him that like they had to like really finely craft and get right and stuff, and translate that from like the comics to the movies, and it works well like in that kind of character spot.
I'm also very impressed that like every time I watch that movie where they just show him with this thing in his chest and they just like take it out and replace it with a new thing. I'm kind of like I don't know if that's makeup or visual effects or what, but color me impressed. Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, I know there's not really a hole in his chest.
Yeah, when she's like
Right.
sticking her hand
Oh,
down
just
in his
the
chest.
that
operation
too, I'm just
scene
like,
is-
anytime they do anything with the reactor in his chest, I'm kind of like, they're not really pulling stuff out of him,
I'm
but I
pretty sure
believe
it's-
that they are.
Yeah.
If I recall, it's like
Like a prosthetic.
well,
or
he's like so it's there's this bed, right, and he's like laying this way, and at an angle. From what I understand, his body is like at a different angle, and it's like a prosthetic chest, but his arms are there.
Yeah, so okay,
yeah.
but so it's just kind of, but they make it look so
They look-
good.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, it works
done
like
so
even
well.
though I know now it's a prosthetic, I'm still kind of like, as far as I'm concerned, they literally cut a hole in Robert Downey Jr.'s chest and put a hunk of metal in
They
there.
might as well.
Method act.
And
Method act.
We'll talk about something that's so important for superhero movies in general, but I think it's done so well in Iron Man, and that is taking a superhero's costume from the comic books and adapting it into the world that they've created for this movie. And that, you know, we touched on the suits a little bit because we get three defined suits throughout the movie, but they make them work so well. It doesn't look like something, you know, it's not like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man where it's like, okay, yeah, I get that, like, he's a superhero, but, like, it's a dude in spandex running around, like, this whole movie. Whereas, like, this one, I feel like it really does fit into a part of this, you know, whole world created.
And you can tell they spent a lot of work designing kind of how the suit itself works mechanically, because you see all the moving parts and gears and hinges, and you can tell they put a lot of effort into making sure that, like, logically it all fit together. Because there is, you know, the suspension of disbelief that he is this, you know, larger than life billionaire genius who can make all this stuff. But once you get past that, you need to be able to be like, well, it can't just be a magic suit that wraps around him. Like, the fact that they're so detailed and making the little mechanics of it fit together.
And what they do in that film is they kind of create a look and a feel for Stark Industries products. And then the Iron Man suit definitely fits into that. You can tell, you know, from watching the beginning when you just see missiles and the stuff, and then you see his workshop, and then you see the Iron Man suit, and you're like, okay, this looks like that Tony was involved in the design of all of these things.
Well, and even with the Stark Industry headquarters. 'Cause that's the other, I think, because I'm trying to think of the big sets that they're in. There's the Stark Mansion, workshop,
The cave,
the
I guess.
cave, which is
the cave in that
The
compound.
cave in that town and stuff, yeah.
And then the I think HQ.
Like they go to like
They go-
Obadiah Stane's office.
Yeah,
like
but that's in
once.
the HQ. In
But
the Stark
even
headquarters.
Stane's
yeah.
office has, you know, a good look.
just like that big modern fancy like just
Well, like I have a picture
windows,
right up
walls that
here
are
on
all
my,
windows.
or I had it, of like the living room in Tony's house that's with the huge glass, like
huge glass and the piano and
everything looks like it's all like it fits together. It's a very cohesive, very
Phoenix.
the whole.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I like it a lot. I feel like there's not. I wouldn't say anything because I feel like what y'all say, I'm just like, yeah, I agree. Like it's like the costumes make it. The costumes make it. The house is like really well done. Same with the cave as well. I think that's really really good. I would say that, like, of Marvel movies, in terms of art direction, I have it kind of low, but I think that's just because it was like it's first and like
It's
there's less
it's a
budget to
safe
go
bet,
with it.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
more safer.
It's safer, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not comparing it to others. I'm talking about by itself, and I mean it's good. It works. Like it's suitable. No pun intended.
Because something like that, like had it not been successful, then they wouldn't have ever taken the risks that they did later on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not knocking it. I'm just clarifying that I have that opinion of it.
Okay.
But I mean, it's good. Like the costumes, great. I would even say I still think like the Iron Man costumes are like some of the best in all the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like easily, and like they nailed it on the first movie, so that's great. Like you said, the house is really well done. The workshop, especially, it's good. I don't have anything to add other than what I was saying because
The last thing
it's
I'll
kind
add-
of obvious with art direction.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add to this is that what the production design team on Iron Man set out to do was to create the beginning of the beginning of the production design for the cinematic universe, and it had to be something that, in 2018 didn't look like it was from 2008.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. I think that's where it really excels, is it created this shared design for, that still seems like it fits with the other films 10 years later.
Yeah. All right.
I think we've kind of talked about
Yeah.
that. We don't need to
Let's-
review.
All right, let's roll on over to Phoenix.
Yeah, I can go.
Do it,
Let's
Phoenix.
go.
Yeah, so I would say both of my movies are a little bit more subtle and not as completely like explosive and in your face as like the other two, because they're like just different tonally.
Yeah.
But I'll start with Silence of the Lambs. I think Silence of the Lambs conveys a really good kind of dark, horrific kind of tone, especially in its color palette. I think it when you look at it, it seems like, it's just like a regular, like, not northeastern, but like West Virginian kind of like town and vibe and stuff like that. And then it's just, seems like just a spy movie. But when you break down like certain aspects of like Hannibal Lecter's costumes, specifically his mask, and like the whole set of Buffalo Bill's house and how like intricate and weird everything is, and when they move Hannibal Lecter to like that caged prison in like towards the end of the or towards the end of the movie and stuff like that, it's like these little like sets kind of they're very cool and very scary without necessarily being like super dark with like its color or something, or super intense on image or something. It's just like things that are there that you notice as they're like walking by and stuff, but it's just to give like more creepy aspects and more creepy and like more kind
It
of
is a very
dark
cold
elements
medical
to it.
feel to it, and that a lot.
Yeah, cold. I would agree with that.
Very
And it's-
clinical. I don't know. Is medical or
Yeah.
clinical the better word there?
Either works. Yeah, clinical, but probably.
Remind me, is Silence of the Lambs supposed to take place in the present day? I guess when it was released, is it?
Yeah, like the
late
90s.
80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
I
West
couldn't remember
Virginia.
if it was like supposed to be when the book was written rather than.
I think they modernized it. I could be
Yeah,
wrong. They
I
definitely
think
use
so.
like phones and stuff. So
What I really like with the production design with Silence of the Lambs is it's very, like you said, they definitely utilize the kind of desaturated color palette so that you have that kind of cold feeling. But it's very claustrophobic.
right.
Like there's
Yes.
there's no open set except at the very end when Hannibal Lecter's like out in the world.
right. Exactly.
And so it's like the cell is very closed and
Well, you can see
claustrophobic.
Hannibal's like, as he gets closer to escaping, the places he's in get wider and wider. He's in the small cell at the beginning, and by the end, when he's helping when he's fake helping the senator, he's in a hangar.
Yeah, and I mean, and then like this also would be a little bit more like towards like the writing, but I think also with the art direction, like you bring up like claustrophobic, like the very climax of the movie is like Clarice like in the dark
in
with
the
the
dark
lights off
with-
and like
the
the night
night
vision thing,
vision.
and it really feels like trapped
super
and like super
claustrophobic.
claustrophobic because she's just like is as small as you can get or whatever, and
like
in
when-
terms of her field of vision and stuff, and even that as well, like the dark lights of like the back rooms and stuff, and going around the wells and everything is just
the
really
well itself is very
Yeah.
it's really grim and
Yeah, you
terrifying.
could have any well, but there's a lot of design into how exactly that well looks, and the way that you look down into it, and the way it looks up.
yeah
Well, it's like even sometimes in a movie like that, when you have like the scenes with the villain or something like a Hannibal Lecter type where they're going and talking to someone, it would be kind of claustrophobic and dark. But even when Clarice is at like the headquarters with the other FBI agents, it's still super dark and very kind of closed off. So it really like keeps through with the whole movie. So that sense of anxiety,
You
stays
feel
with
tense
you.
the whole time.
Yeah, even as you're watching
Yeah.
the parts where she's not in any danger.
Yeah, and like the way like I like the way they use like the weather in the movie as well because I mean I know they don't have control of that but like they don't play the lights out to be like sunlight and like bright. They play them to be more overcasted and like when it's peeking through the windows it's I mean that's more into lighting and I know we didn't say we can talk about it but it gets like it's like very cold and like the instead of going for very like bright and poppy lights in color it goes for like very muted colors and like cold colors so like even when you never really feel a sense of safety even when like even when she's just talking to her FBI cadets or if she's you know like just gathering information it still has this sense of dreary feeling and like bitterness that's just I think really well done.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just it's all great. Just like the color palette and everything. The only thing that I just like I would just feel a little remiss if I didn't say it. It's just kind of like a lot of it like also feels like very dependent on the lighting, which like don't get me wrong. I'm not saying any of it's bad at all, but it's because kind of like a number of those scenes like work so well because of the lighting. Like in like we're talking like in the well, the whole final sequence, like, but and then like even like Hannibal Lecter's like larger cage when he's there killing the police officer, and you're just at that lower angle looking up at him, you just have like the lights just almost like silhouetting him. It's just kind of like the production design's good, but like I feel like what really like hammers those scenes home and really gives you that like clinical feeling and that feeling of just like claustrophobia and just despair is really dependent on the lighting. So I'm just pointing that out there, but that's not to say that the production design or these sets or anything are any less than they are.
Yeah,
it's a good point. I think it's all very much
just
enhanced by the lighting.
Yeah,
to say the least.
So I don't know. I just felt like I just felt the need to say that.
No,
but other than that, like
that's what this podcast is for. So. Don't explain yourself.
Yeah, I know. I'm just.
Yeah, I don't even disagree with you. I think the lighting is.
I just didn't want you guys to think I'm trying to pick a fight or anything.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't even disagree with you. I think the lighting is a huge factor of this movie, and I think. A lot of it plays off of the use of shadow and darkness and stuff, as most thrillers and especially psychological thrillers are known to do. But I think the times when they do have some nice light, it still captures like a creepiness in terms of what's there with like the set and the costume with like. When she's talking to the mother of the victim, or when Hannibal Lecter's talking to the mother of the victim, and he's like raised up on that, I guess kind of like a
dolly kind of thing.
Dolly,
like the dolly kind of.
I don't know what
the
else to
mask
call
and
it.
the straight jacket.
Yeah,
and
like
all the,
that's
iconic.
Yeah, it's very. It's
Yeah.
like not necessarily dark there, but like his whole costume and the way they kind of like fear him, even though he's like completely restrained, is like so terrifying.
Totally dehumanize him in that moment.
Yeah.
He's an animal.
Exactly.
Chained up.
Exactly.
You know, even the face mask. I mean, we could talk at length about the face mask and how iconic it is.
Ooh.
Yeah, and like the center prison and stuff like that. Like,
I still love the faraway shot of it. Hannibal standing in the middle of the prison, the glass walls around him, everything's just dark, and it's like spotlights on it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just such a good.
Well,
it sticks with you.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in his introduction, he's wearing blue. Like his jumpsuit is blue,
Yes.
right? And it's not like a standard like bright orange that you would think. So that it's the fact that it's even kind of
It's a very muted blue.
very muted blue. And so, but it's bright enough, and it's like the only bright thing in that.
It draws your eyes towards him, even though you're terrified.
Your eyes towards him, and so it's just even more unsettling.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's really great. I will go ahead and move on to Moonlight unless anyone has any other things to say.
No, I think we gushed about that movie enough.
Yeah. Moonlight is, I would say, also really good. Also very subtle in its like art direction and stuff. I think for Moonlight, it really captures. It's really like location and setting based, and I think that's what's a big strong suit of the movie. Like the spot at the beach, and like it's multiple scenes. The diner that happens at the very end of the movie. The the places where Sharon can like run in like the streets, and like that little kind of hideaway place he goes to even at the beginning of the movie where what's his name finds him?
Juan.
Where Juan finds him in that little like hideaway. Like it really captures like the area in this like small part of Miami, this like kind of run down like poverty stricken part of Miami.
Yeah, the projects. I mean,
the projects. Yeah. That's like really well done. The characters also like physically, like especially with their clothes, kind of show a change. Like when you look at the way Sharon dresses at the beginning, and then you look at the way he dresses when he's like black, like he's very more like hiding and his like masculine appeal. Like the minute you see him at the beginning, and he has like, he has like the grill and like what's it called?
Do-rag.
The do-rag, and like you see his car, it's like totally like not his personality that you saw from when he was like a teenager
Right.
and stuff. It's so jarring because of
The last time you see him, he's in a school uniform, isn't he?
right. Yeah, you see him and he's a school, and as a kid you see him in like I think like a white shirt and like blue pants or something or whatever. Like it's like
I think he's in school uniforms for the first two. Like,
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I know it's like a white polo.
I didn't think they had school uniforms in the middle section. I thought he was just wearing regular
wearing
clothes.
school
you're right. He's just,
He's wearing like a polo
he wears the uniform when he's
yeah, I just
little,
remember the white polo and the
that's when he's little.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, he's and I'm looking now and he's wearing the yellow and
Is he wearing,
blue
like,
collared
the, like,
shirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that one.
Yeah. Which is like again just like such a change from when he goes to like this kind of like yellow and blue like I don't know, like that's like really bright looking and like really like kind of not preppy but like like
also
normalized, and then you cut to like when he's black and then he's just like all of that color is which is emblematic of his life is like gone, and now he's just like completely changed. His like clothes are different. His car is very like like masculine and like totally like unfamiliar to what we've seen in the past.
It's also kind of the first time you get to see the character Sharon kind of have a choice in what he gets to wear, because you've got a school uniform and then you've got clearly like some hand-me-downs or something, like something from like Goodwill or something that was just like donated, because it's an ill-fitting like polo that's not, probably something he wouldn't have chosen or something. And then finally, when he has some agency, I guess, in his own life, he chooses for this hyper-masculine look,
and
kind of mask.
And it's a way to like show that he's become Juan without anyone ever saying like, oh, you're dressed like Juan, the guy you used to know or whatever. We see it as soon as we see like the connections and stuff like that. Like it's the little like small setups in the movie. And then like the use of like color in the movie where like you like blue is such like a beautiful and like intimate part of like the part of the movie, and like it always feels so comforting, especially like night or whatever, like even at the ending and like the night moonlight. In the moonlight, and at the end in the apartment whenever they have their like final moment together and stuff, like it's all so like everything kind of flows into like this beautiful emotional tale that is like emphasizing like the beautiful story that's with it, and it wouldn't be as strong if it wasn't as so like so true to the like the area. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm kind of tired. The time and like the place of Miami, while also being very good to the movie.
Yeah. What I will say about this is you may be running into some of the same issues we have with Silence of the Lambs, which is that a lot of these more poignant shots are so dependent upon the lighting and the cinematography. That shot on the beach, while it's beautiful, it is definitely like a point for cinematography.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like almost exactly what Robbie said. It's like, yes, it's like the color is very nice, but you wouldn't be getting that color without the cinematography and all the lighting. And without the lighting, you are kind of left with just these very simple, just kind of areas. And while they do a good job of exemplifying like where he is and where he's coming from, it's still just...
I don't know if it's as strong as some of our other things we have.
Yeah, like because Silence of the Lambs, all these sets were made to really enhance that feeling of claustrophobia and just fear and despair. Whereas with Moonlight, it's like everything's simple, but it's there to create a backdrop for the story and the actors to play off of. Mm-hmm.
but it maybe doesn't stand out on its own.
Well, and
Yeah.
I mean, Moonlight itself was a stage play.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
And so it is, the sets are very much not unlike
Yeah.
a stage play.
yeah, and that's what I was getting at. Like, it's not. It's more. It's like a stage play. It's subtle. It's not as like intricate as like other movies. But I think for like the tale it's telling, it doesn't necessarily like have to be, especially when it's like a poverty-stricken place like Miami. Like there's not going to be like a lot of stuff, and it's not going to look like Tony Stark lives in like a rich mansion, so he's not going to be like decked out and nice and clean with a bunch of stuff. Like it's always going to be pretty barren, and I think they capture that well.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's move on to Brett.
Okay, so I got RoboCop. I feel like the production design of RoboCop is pretty strong for a heavy satire made in the late 80s.
It's got a very distinct look
I'm
to it.
going to start with the obvious. RoboCop, the costume, the prosthetics, the makeup that all went into making that, how it you can tell that this movie is a product of its time, but like from a movie from the late 80s, RoboCop does look like what you would think like a cyborg police officer would look like not too long in the future, but it's nothing like super goofy. When he takes off his helmet, just how they have his face there on the entire like the rest of the robot body. I feel like for late 80s, that's pretty good makeup work. I'm talking a mile a minute here. I'm talking so fast. You have all of old Detroit, which is supposed to be futuristic, destroyed Detroit, and I feel like they do a really good job with having everything just look just dirty and scummy and just kind of crime ridden, because they're kind of like, like old Detroit has the cancer that is crime, and just every shot you get of the city,
You see how that cancer is destroying.
you just see how bad it is. And then you have the steel mill, I think, where he gets blown to pieces, and then where also the final confrontation is, and just that really just exemplifies just what where they are, and just this just abandoned factory. Oh God, sorry, I know we're running out of time, so I'm just talking.
We're actually doing fine on time.
I know, but I'm just trying to talk so fast. All the police officer uniforms, I feel, because they just look like, because I know they're loaded up with body armor. They look like they're walking into a war zone, which...
Well, you've got the production design of I can't remember the name of it now, but the
Ed 209.
Yes.
Yeah, you have the Ed 209 as well. This giant stop motion, just walking piece of artillery tank.
That's done so well.
Walking tank.
Not that it's a point for the production design, but the way they blend the stop motion there is done really well. I think it's it still fits the
Like the boardroom, even.
Yeah, the boardroom, just how it's just kind of like, these are the super powerful people that effectually own old
city,
Detroit, and they're going to literally rebuild it so they can own it again.
I think you're selling yourself a little bit short on the RoboCop suit and how important, or body, whatever you want to call it, how important it is to the look and the feel of the film. Like you mentioned it a little bit, but I feel like you glossed over it a little bit because
I'm just trying to move things along.
The point I would make about it is I want you to think about the remake of it in 2014, and even when they tried to update the suit to make it maybe a little more futuristic for this time, it looks worse. It looks bad. It doesn't look there's a very specific look to the RoboCop of the 80s, and I'm not saying they were wrong for messing with it in this movie, but it maybe only works because of how it looks in the 80s. It doesn't seem ridiculous like it does in 2014.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, just real quick, what I really love, and it's kind of a thematic through line with a lot of their production design and costume design, is it's very bulky. It's it's not streamlined,
it's not aerodynamic.
It's very bulky and strong and large, and even in the buildings and the physical sets, nothing is streamlined, even though it's the future. It's very industrial, which also kind of goes with Detroit as a city itself is very industrial, and so it kind of ties to that, and I think that's really well done.
I was also going to mention, inside the police station, where you're in there, it just looks like your regular police station, but then in the back, just in the locker room, in the little holding area where they keep RoboCop, I feel like that's just just really well designed because that just kind of with Silence of the Lambs, it just feels very claustrophobic. Like, oh, like RoboCop is a thing to be kept and used, but then he breaks out of there and it's like, oh, he's getting his freedom, he's finding his humanity. But then also the production of all the cheap little like newscasts and commercials they have.
Oh, yeah.
They're all so good because it starts with just kind of like, oh, like give us 3 minutes, we'll give you the world. The super grainy lo-fi newscast. Then there's the commercial for like the like prosthetic hearts. You get to just have Dr. Lovegood or whatever there walking around with his lab coat. He's just kind of like, oh, try our new like sports heart. And he holds up this giant just PVC piece of pipe and plastic monstrosity. And he's kind of like, oh, payment options, refinancing, da-da-da-da. And remember, we care. And then just all those commercials, the 6000 SUX, the Red Alert game. It's just, I feel like they did such a good job with just like the satire of all of it and just like the lo-fi, super simplified production design of those commercials. I feel like I feel like they do a really good job.
Yeah, I forgot about those commercials, but they're so
The commercials
good.
are so
I'd
good.
buy that for $1.
God,
Yeah.
this movie has the best one-liners in history.
Yeah. I would just add to add what you're saying. I personally also, and you touched on it too. I loved the color and like any shots of like the city and stuff. I really think it gets like that like apocalyptic look to it. It's a very like blue gray movie, which is like kind of takes the like
Blue, gray, and silver.
blue and silver, yeah,
Chrome.
yeah,
Silver and
which
chrome.
which kind of adds to like that
Industrial
feel, whatever, and also and yeah, like Rob was saying, like the suit's great. I think it's like super good. I think it's what's great about it is also like it's a suit that you can kind of feel like just looking at it that like the human aspect of that person's gone just by the act of like replacing his eyes with like a laser like laser face or whatever, like that that alone like kind of already makes it seem more robot than human or whatever. When you take another character that's like half robot, half human, and you keep their face, it tends to feels more friendly and honest. But like with that literally just covering it over, you can kind of feel like he's gone, and that adds to like his whole like tail and stuff. And I think they really nail it with the suit, which is why it's so popular and stuff.
It's
And
so
why
good.
It is.
and it's blue because he's a cop, which the new remake totally messes up.
Yeah, it's
You feel like the heft, like
yes.
he feels heavy,
It
like
feels
the
very,
way
everything feels very heavy.
What's it called? The tank thing.
The Ed-
209?
Yes, is literally you can feel the weight. It feels like a giant machine.
And it has the tiger growl recorded
And that-
into it.
I think that helps with the fact that it's stop motion because it's a little clunky.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
Just fun fact. Peter Weller, the guy who plays RoboCop Alex Murphy, he actually had to go to mime school to like just like get the movements of just like walking, just to get that really down. Because like every time you see him walk, he's just like very just like mechanical, and how he like turns from the waist, then turns the rest of his body and everything. Like he actually went to mime school for a little bit to learn how to walk.
that's
cool.
actually really cool.
And it makes
Just
a lot of
just
sense.
a fun tidbit.
Makes a lot of sense.
All
All
right.
right, so Cardi.
So
My last two films, both of them have production design very unique to their style. We'll start with the easier of the two, Princess Bride, which
it's a storybook.
it's a storybook. It's literally a story. They're reading it from a storybook, like the grandfather reading to his grandson, Fred Savage. It's just perfect. I mean, the meadow and like the barn house at the beginning when they're falling in love, and like they're in like the serfdom, like peasant kind of clothes, and then the castle, and
Everything from the costume design of
Buttercup's dresses, and like Humperdinck's like velvet, and it's all different colors. There's purples and yellows, and the Six-Fingered Man has very kind of elaborate costume, and the Dread Pirate Roberts, like the almost like Mask of Zorro, like all black, and the mask, and
Yeah, all the costumes are fantastic.
And you go like
they're
Toya.
all great.
Yeah,
what is
Under the Giants? Fezzi.
Billy Crystal's
The
why am I forgetting his name?
the magic man. Yes, but
He's only mostly
he's only mostly dead. Yeah, that whole part with them and
That whole
their
set right
makeup.
there is so good.
And
I will say,
that's
we were
sad.
talking about this not too long ago with The Princess Bride,
Yeah.
is that when it got restored on Blu-ray, everything looks a little cheesier.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
Yeah,
it,
that's-
it even kind of works to its advantage a little bit. Because, like, it even adds... Because, like, that movie's kind of campy.
yes, it's,
Oh,
it's
that
very
movie
kinda?
super
Kind
campy.
of camp.
Kind of. You know, the subtleties of it. No. I mean...
The subtle nuances of the Princess Bride.
That's right. But, it leans so into it that even if the sets look kind of cheesy... I don't want to say cheap, but if they look kind of cheesy, that you're like... That actually almost adds to it a little more.
Yeah.
Miracle Max.
Miracle Max, yes, thank you. I knew it was Max. But...
This is important.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think it all works so well to
Oh, yeah. Like, it's...
to the feeling and general tone of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, the Cliffs of Insanity.
The Cliffs of Insanity,
Just,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's just a sheer cliffside. And it's like, oh, they're just on the side of a cliff
Yeah.
here. But
Yeah.
then when they get to the top, and Inigo and Wesley, right?
Wesley, yeah.
they're there fighting in the ruins and everything. Just how they just, like...
Oh, those
like,
ruins are so
Yeah,
Just,
good.
yeah,
ruins.
just,
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, that was a cool sword fight. Just
Well,
them
all the
dancing around,
backdrops,
like...
too.
Yeah, all the
Those are all painted
backdrops.
backdrops.
Yeah,
just-
exactly.
no,
That's what's so cool.
yeah.
I was gonna bring that up.
Those are really good, just because like then that like feels like very reminiscent of like Wizard of Oz
Yes.
when they're like kind of similar in the fact that it's like they start real world and then they're kind of like a dream and a storybook
Yeah.
with your painted backdrops, all your fantastic locations and costumes.
Yeah.
And
Well, everything
back to
in
the
this
real
movie
world.
has kind of a play storybook feel to it. Like, if the movie wasn't designed like this, you couldn't have the
Yeah.
scene where they're climbing up the Cliffs of Insanity, and it's very obviously like a pulley that's
Yeah.
pulling all
Yeah.
of the,
Yeah.
and they're just
Yeah.
their
Yeah,
feet aren't
just-
touching the
yeah,
cliff.
like the like not the cheapness of it, but just kind of like the simplicity,
Yeah,
maybe.
simplicity, I
It
guess.
just really works
Yeah.
to its effect. Whereas like if you were to make it like a Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
kind of thing, you would lose so much of the charm of
Yeah.
it all. I mean, it would look fantastic, but
Yeah. No,
it
yeah.
would be like a fundamentally different movie.
yeah.
And it's just like even like you said, going off of the meadow and the castle and stuff. It's all just so like warm and fuzzy
very
and
warm.
like just like filled with like joy in the air and stuff. Like it, even when it's like dangerous, it's dangerous, but like you said, in like a campy storybook
Yeah.
way.
Yeah,
so it
when they're in
feels
the
more
swamps.
like
Yeah.
like
The fire swamp.
kind of a
Fire
joy,
swamps.
like kind of like when like a Disney movie there's danger, it's
Yeah.
like still like a Disney kind of
Yeah.
danger to where it's not like scary, it's like, oh, this
Ooh,
is like
it's
not good.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It's like
dark.
the Wizard of Oz,
It's
yeah.
dark and tinted green.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it adds to the
Yeah.
story a lot.
Like and also like the Zoo of Death. And it's just kind of like, oh, this is like the sinister place of torture, and it's like, oh, what's the thing that kills Wesley? It's a giant thing with numbers
With
on
numbers,
it.
and you push it up and it does a water wheel.
Yeah, it's like
And
it's just
there's
yeah.
electricity in
and
there.
it's like it's just such like a doofy looking
Yeah.
thing. It's like, oh, but this thing will take
sucks
years
his
off your
soul
life.
out
It
through-
will
or even
kill
like
you.
the guy who works in there who's like the Igor type.
Yeah, it's just
And he's got like just the black robe with the very like pale
Yeah.
makeup, and it's
it's like it's so campy. And it's like oh, it's dangerous, but it's just goofy. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
going to
that's
kill you because I'm mad. It's like, no, don't put it up to 50.
Not
And
up to
it doesn't
50.
doesn't it just like jump up from like 20 to 50 or something?
yeah,
Like
because it does like ones and then it like starts jumping up.
yeah, and it's just kind of like all the way, and I'm like, this what?
yeah,
Well, there,
But
even like there's all the campy stuff in the story, but like you also have Fred Savage's
his
bedroom,
bedroom.
which is it's like so meticulously designed to be a product of
Yeah.
that time. Like
Yeah.
it is definitely a kid from what year is it? 86?
80s, yeah.
It's very much an 80s child's
80s.
bedroom. Like it evokes even kind of the same feels like
87.
as like
80s
Ferris Bueller's
cinema.
bedroom and stuff like that. Like
yes,
it's
and like the games and all the books behind him, then it's very much like, that's not cool, Grandpa, and
Yeah.
then he reads the story. And you're like,
even the
Is
book,
this a
the
kissing
book which is
book?
so
yeah, the book's
ornate,
like
and you
this.
don't get a lot of shots of it. But
Yeah, but
I like it. Good production design. Good choice.
production
Yeah.
design. And then Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I think, I mean, all of the Indiana Jones movies have stellar production design. I mean, I'll give it to like Temple of Doom. I don't love that movie, but it's got some
that
pretty
movie's
impressive.
got some hella design.
It's got some hella
like,
design in that movie.
I say like Temple of Doom's not the best. Like it's not the best, but it is definitely
It's the second
but
worst.
it is definitely like the most like stylish and
Yes,
stylized and like
stylized.
looks and like kind of feels the most different from all of them. And I feel like people kind of overlook that just because they're like, oh, Temple of Doom's bad. And it's like, but like the beginning when like the title, like the title comes over, it's like, oh, like this movie's stylish. This movie is something, but it's not a good something. Anyway, that's not the movie we're talking about.
But The Last Crusade, it is kind of, and if you were talking about it in the context of the movies, like you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then you have this very different Temple of Doom, and then it kind of brings back a little bit to the Raiders of the Lost Ark feel, so it's that kind of going back to it, but then building on it, which I like a whole lot, because you've got the sets of like the flashback, and like it's much brighter in the flashback. It's like during the day, and there's a lot of bright colors, and like him in the mine at the beginning, and this like the scout outfits are very kind of characteristically appropriate, and when he's like on the train, and the design of the old like carnival train, like traveling circus, and that whole like art design on the train is super cool. And then when he gets home, and you see like in that movie, you see Indy's like childhood home, and kind of all the books everywhere, and all the papers and everything from his father's studies, and you get the in Venice, you get like the city of Venice, which is beautiful, but the library.
And I was gonna say the library is so good,
beautiful with the stained glass, and it has the clues with the numbers, and they like go down into the catacombs beneath it, and like even that's very Indiana Jones. And they've got the Ark of the Covenant on the wall. It's fantastic. And then they go to the castle, and the castle's very pretty with like the secret Nazi like chamber with the fireplace that turns around. It's just it's so fun and very like him. And then the blimp, which was really impressive, and like the design of the blimp. And then when they finally get out into the desert and they go to it's just Petra is where it is, but the fact that they found it and scouted the location and picked that to be where they wanted the Holy Grail to be, is, and then the design of that chamber, because they put that's probably the most detailed set in the movie, is the ending chamber with this, because there are all the statues inside in the main room, and then he goes through the parts with the blades, and then the letters to walk across the letters, and then the
what
chasm.
does Jehovah begin with?
An I. And then
Oh no!
No, it's an I.
Jehovah begins with an I.
We've done this every podcast.
And then,
It's called a running gag, Robbie.
and then you have like the deep chasm, and when he takes the leap of faith, and the camera shifts,
pans around,
and you can see,
then it goes back.
Yeah, you can see where the walkway kind of breaks.
Throwing the sand.
Throwing the sand. And then when you finally get to the last room, and like you can tell how meticulously placed all the different grails were, and the designs of each individual
and every grail.
Individual grail. There was
like
so much work that went into it.
That was a number of people's jobs, was to just sit there and just make cups
and like make sure they were all different, but they were all kind of similar.
Yeah.
And
like any of these could be the Holy Grail, but they're not all the Holy Grail.
And like the knight in his costume, how it is just this Knights Templar costume, but it's old and tattered,
very
dusty because he's been there for hundreds of years. And then
he chose poorly.
But then
sorry for the podcast listeners. I just went.
Yeah.
I just popped straight into the microphone.
But then
Clipping the mic.
I'm gonna kind of end on this the design of the Grail itself. Because that's really important to the story, where he's like, oh no, this is the cup of a carpenter. But the fact that they really nailed the look of what they wanted it to be, and it's now kind of become iconic on its own from that movie as a kind of iconic look for the Grail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The biggest knock against the production design in this film that I have is the scene where they're flying over like what's supposed to be the mountains in Germany, and it's very obviously not the lush green mountains of Germany. Yeah. It's very obviously the hills of Burbank. And it's not. I think it's something we should talk about. Like, because they do. There's some great parts where they do some great location scouting and find some great places to, have these, scenes play out. And then there's this grand epic chase scene that's just not in the right place. It's
where they're flying the planes.
Yeah.
That's, I think, that one definitely I think is more about
I mean, it's definitely about budget or something, but like
budget and like where like the focus on that is about not necessarily them flying around, but it's about what's happening in the plane because they have the banter back and forth. About,
Yeah.
But
like,
production
blah,
design
blah,
is not.
blah, blah.
But production design, like, it doesn't matter if it's not a part of
No,
the thing.
yeah.
It's like it's a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're very obviously flying where they could get a permit to
Yeah.
fly, which
No,
is Burbank.
exactly.
And
If it looks bad, it looks bad.
But they're working within their
yeah,
constraints.
it's definitely like the desert of California, not
Yeah.
the lush green hills of Germany. Like
But I feel like there's enough in the whole rest of the movie where it's kind of like, okay, like there's that one little
spot.
thing, but there's enough to kind of like
oh yeah, I don't think
offset it.
I don't think it.
I mean, it's an
makes
Indiana
it
Jones
the
movie.
worst.
This is like already like it's arguably like this is its strongest thing in like any Indiana
Yeah.
Jones movie. It's all the production design. So like, yeah, it's what else can you say about it? It's like it's an Indiana Jones movie. They put so much effort into their props, their costumes, their settings. There's
I mean, even think back to Raiders. Like the arc is so meticulously designed.
yeah, but even like you said, like the Grail in this one and everything. Like
How many times have we said the word meticulous
many
on
times
this
we-
episode?
I said aesthetic too many times.
We ended up not saying aesthetic that much.
I know.
Yeah,
I think it's
go-
because I shut
go
it down
figure.
real quick.
I think also aesthetic would go more with like cinematography.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
I think so.
Okay, but
Very detailed.
I think have we talked about all our films
Yeah,
now?
we talked about all of them. So.
Could you imagine if
Alright.
La La Land was still on the board? How much would we talk about that? And you'd have like the third
gosh.
one there.
It's not.
Oh,
But,
Brett is dabbing for those of you who are not in the studio.
Yeah, multiple dabs.
so let's go around and pick our winners of the
Yeah,
week.
I think we go reverse.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go. So I'll start with me.
That's how we do things.
Talking about it.
We have so many good ones this week. I do want to say
It's
like
gonna be
there's
real.
there's a lot of
so
winners
good.
this
It's gonna be
week.
real
Let's
difficult.
just flip a coin, something.
Yeah, I'm really gonna say
Just-
it's gonna be kind of tacky because it's my own movie, but
Yeah, it's fine.
We
Do
gushed
it.
about it real quick. The Princess Bride, like that's one of the like really like one of the defining factors of that movie is how good and believable it is as that storybook world, and just everything from the costumes to the sets to everything, like the colors. It's so good. So I'm gonna go with Princess Bride.
It's really good. Good choice.
I'm gonna go with Who Framed Roger Rabbit because these were all really good, but just no movie like pulls off what Roger Rabbit does, which is seamlessly blending these two worlds that should in no way
Work together.
blend as well as they do, and just noir cartoons, cartoon noir, whatever, the costumes, the animation, the real life, the color palette, all of it. It's tops, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Indiana Jones. It's so iconic. It's like a staple of like a really good, like when Hollywood's really good at and nails production design. Like it's the textbook version of that. And Indiana Jones, the franchise, is the textbook version of that. And I think the third one nails it. Like you said, it like kind of revisits like what the familiarity of Raiders, but adds to it. And the whole art direction and art team took so much time and effort and stuff like that. And it's like it's definitely my favorite thing of the Indiana Jones movie, even more so than like the character in Indiana Jones. I just really love like the worlds and like the settings that these
The
places
adventure,
made.
yeah.
The adventures itself, and how well done they're made. And so I think it's a really great one.
Yeah.
Well, you guys made this really hard because I was gonna pick one of those three. I was sitting here like,
still
which one am I?
can.
I know.
You can pick one of those
And now I'm
or pick
gonna.
another one.
You could pick a different one.
I think.
Be a wild card. Take a risk.
I think I've got to go. I think I got to go Princess Bride. I was so close to choosing Roger Rabbit. I was so close to choosing Indiana Jones. I was so close to choosing RoboCop. Like,
Thanks for trying to help me there, Carter.
I know Carter was pointing out Brett, and I was like, I got to go with like what my heart feels, and that is Princess Bride. Princess Bride is my winner for the week, and it's such a good week. It's so.
It's
and we're getting to the hard part of the
This is the
podcast.
hard part.
Yeah, all right.
Are
Carter,
we still saying shooting off the moon? Or we?
shoot,
Yeah,
shoot
we're
off
not
the-
changing
Voted
it.
off the island.
We're all still in the
Tossed
moon.
into the volcano. However you want to
This
do
is
it.
this is the hard part, Carter.
So,
Which one runs
go
out of
ahead.
oxygen?
Which one runs out? This was a tough choice. Well, yes, it was tough. But I'm gonna say because, and we touched on it, because this movie, where it excels is the cinematography. It's the production design overall just can't be it just isn't at the same level as the other films. Because the cinematography is so integral to the feeling of that film. And a lot of the production times really it's Moonlight.
Yeah.
It's like, Carter, the tension is killing me.
We all know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Because, what I'm going to say is where that movie really excels in terms of production design is the color palette, but the
It's
lighting
so tied to the
and everything else,
cinematography.
it's so tied to the cinematography, and that's just not the production design.
Okay. I too am voting for Moonlight, and it pains me so much to do this just because like that movie is so beautiful. It's just so haunting. But it's just like if this was cinematography, we were talking about. Oh yeah, Moonlight would be.
We'd be singing a different song.
Top of the tiers, but it's just without all the cinematography and the lighting and all that, it's just kind of like it just falls a little short. So I'm sorry, but Moonlight.
Yeah. This was tough for me too. But I'm also voting Moonlight because I agree. Like it's I do think the production design of it is not bad, but I do think it's definitely not. It's not it. It is of the great things about it. It is on the lower end of great things about it. Maybe even the lowest, just because it doesn't need to be so great. It was adapted from a stage play. It doesn't need to be so extravagant and detailed. I was almost gonna say meticulous again, but I stopped myself. Detailed. It kills on story and cinematography and color and light and stuff like that. But we're not considering it when you actually break it down to like its production design. Its strongest point is the characters and their uniforms and their clothing. But even then, it's still pretty easy and pretty like standard. So. Yep, I'm voting Moonlight, and that makes 3.
Yeah,
man.
Robbie, you can give your last vote, but it looks like I'm taking an L.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what I say at this point. But it's all been said. I love this movie, and I don't want to see it go. But we're getting to the part where all these movies are going to be hard to vote off.
Yep.
Moonlight's got to go this week.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Unanimous fracas, baby.
Unanimous. It hasn't happened since La La Land.
No, that's true.
Which is ironic.
It is ironic.
Yeah.
those. All right, let's.
This has been a great episode of Film Fracas. I feel like we talked a lot.
Yeah.
Did a good job. We love talking with you guys.
Yeah, let's
So you can find me on Twitter at CA Spilliards, like spill something in your N and S. I highly recommend. I was fortunate enough to attend the world premiere of Ready Player One, and when this episode's out, it should be coming out this Friday.
It should be coming out, actually. The Wednesday should be the preview screenings.
Yes, so go see that movie. Like, contrary to popular belief, based on some of the ads and what the internet is saying, it is a good movie. Please go and watch it. I really enjoyed it.
You can find me on Snapchat, Brett JHNSN #1. I will watch a movie every day and post a simple thumbs up, thumbs down review. If you disagree or want to know more, send me a message. We'll talk about it. I've been on a monster movie kick lately, and it was hard for me to choose, but I'm going to recommend the 1987 vampire film by Catherine Bigelow, Near Dark, starring the one and only Lance Henriksen. And I'm also going to highly recommend the 1985 vampire film Fright Night by Tom Holland, starring the inimitable Chris Sarandon, playing the most shagadelic vampire, cool as ice, super
Princess
smooth,
Bride as well.
and he's so good.
You can find me at BombAssPhoenix on Twitter. I was also at South by Southwest, and I feel like it's appropriate now that Moonlight is gone that I recommend another play adapted to a film that I got to see at South by Southwest. Also, about like set in Chicago, about like the lives of some African Americans. And I'm gonna pick Passover, the new Spike Lee joint. It was
Is he
fantastic.
calling it a joint this time?
Yeah, it's a Spike Lee joint. He calls them all of his movies.
He stopped calling them joints for a little bit.
It was in Chirac. And then in this one, it ends with the Spike Lee joint.
Nice.
So yeah, it's the new Spike Lee joint. It's super good. The playwright who I'll bring up her name in a second. It's like Antoinette something. I know Antoinette's her first name, but she writes an incredible story, an incredible take on Waiting for Godot. It'd be hilarious if we talked about that production design because it is just a street light or street post, and that's it. But it's fantastic and it's moving, and Antoinette Nwandu is the writer, and it's such a powerful and emotional movie. It was one of my favorites at South by Southwest, and It goes on Amazon in April, so it's kind of a long ways to recommend, but I feel like it's a good time to bring it up now. It's great.
Yeah. I'm Robbie DeShazer at Robbie_DeShazer on Twitter and Instagram. So go follow me there. My recommendation this week, I was on a plane to Los Angeles last week, and I rewatched Big Hero 6. It's so good, guys. Like, let me tell you, that movie is so good. You can get it for free by downloading the Movies Anywhere app and linking your Amazon and your iTunes, and they should give it to you for free. So that's one reason right there just to watch it. But this has been Film Fracas. What a great week.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next week.
Stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Film Fracas. We know there are a lot of shows on the web, and we are so glad you took the time to listen to ours. Thank you, Brett Johnson, Robbie DeShazer, and Phoenix Zarola for helping to write and produce each episode of the show. There's no team behind Film Fracas, it's just us, so consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you listen. It really does help get the word out. You can follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Film Fracas. Once again, thanks for listening, and we can't wait for you to hear our next episode.